Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, Jon Jordan. So in this video, I am going to be taking data from CryptoSlam. So CryptoSlam is a website which aggregates data across blockchains and looks at NFT trading, so the trading of non-fungible tokens across different projects and different blockchains. Pretty interesting sort of stuff. As you can see, it is pretty heavily lots of numbers. I quite like numbers, but this kind of stuff is not always that easy to pull trends from. So what I've done is I've gone in and I've actually pulled some of this data just manually to do a quick snapshot of some of the projects and get a taste of what's going on there. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just literally copied and pasted data across from CryptoSlam. So the basically 24-hour data, 7-day data, 30-day data, and then all-time data. And then the bit that's interesting here is this little section where I've just averaged stuff across. So I've basically looked at the total number, the total value of trading, and divided it by the number of buyers to get an average. And then that's the same over different time periods. And then we've got the all-time number, which is a bit different because it's not buyers. That's actually kind of owners or wallets. So the first thing I've done here is we can see I've just kind of created this average revenue per buyer or owner for the different time frames. So I've just taken a few of the projects. So we've got CryptoKitties, AXIE, CryptoPunks, My Crypto Heroes, SORARE, and NBA Top Shot. Actually, that's wrong. Right, so what I've done here is I've taken the average revenue per buyer or owner across the 4 different time periods, and this is actually on a log scale. So you can see here we go from an average of $10 to $100 to $1,000 to $10,000. So it's kind of compressing this. So the main thing we can see is CryptoPunks is by far and away the biggest project. So the average price of a CryptoPunk now is kind of $4,000, $5,000. But we can see here it's an interesting kind of mechanic where over the last 24 hours, the average price has actually been $26,000. Actually, only 3 CryptoPunks have sold, and they've actually been incredibly expensive ones. So obviously these are average numbers. So you have to be a little bit careful about how the kind of bell curve of that average is created. But we can kind of the main thing I'm doing in this for these graphs is actually looking at the trends. So we can see here that CryptoPunks is really interesting because it's the only one where the shorter periods of time have a higher average than the longer periods of time. So we can see we get the idea here that CryptoPunks is really going some at the moment. So the average CryptoPunk, the average sale of a CryptoPunk has been almost $6,000 of all time. CryptoPunks have been around for a long period of time. 3 years, over 3 years, 3.5 years now, and lots of CryptoPunks have sold for hundreds of dollars in the early days. Now they sell for thousands of dollars, and we can see over the last day, the last week, and the last month, the average is a lot higher than the all-time average. That's partly due to the ETH price, but partly because this project is just accelerating. So the price of CryptoPunks is just going through the roof still. So that's kind of interesting. We can see from this trend. So the highest point is the most recent period of time. In most of these projects, we can see that it's the opposite. So the lowest average is normally the smallest period of time, and then you have almost like a step function. In fact, apart from F1 NBA Top Shot and F1 Delta Time, all the other projects have that kind of step function, all the different sort of levels of step. What's interesting here is if you look at CryptoKitties and My Crypto Heroes, a bit more of a subtle trend, I suppose. But here, the all-time average is much higher than any other duration average. And we kind of know this is kind of reverse engineering. Both CryptoKitties and My Crypto Heroes are projects that have been hit heavily by Ethereum gas fees, and there's not a lot of activity going on at the moment. So these are projects that are kind of in the moment, at least in decline. Maybe they'll be resurrected at some point in the future, but this kind of trend where there's quite a big gap, quite a bit. The average now is much lower than it once was, suggests that these projects had a glorious past and their current iteration is not going so well. Something like AXIE Infinity is kind of probably the perfect project where we see the all-time high is actually higher than we see, but it's quite a kind of regular kind of step function. And we know for AXIE Infinity, the cheapest AXIEs are now about $30. The most expensive ones are about $100,000, something like that. So there's quite a wide range of activity going on here, but we know AXIE Infinity is kind of growing well. It's not being over speculated. It's kind of like I would say a project that is growing organically, and I think that's reflected in this sort of behavior. That would be my take on that, at least. Whereas, and I guess we see something similar for SORARE. So SORARE again has this step function. It looks like there has been some. There's quite a big gap here. So with AXIE Infinity, the 30-day average is 233 compared to 300 for the all-time. So it's not a big difference here with SORARE, which is a trading a football fantasy game with cards, player cards. The monthly average is 576, but the all-time average is 1,400. So it's quite a big difference. It's almost $1,000. So this suggests that there's been quite a lot of heavy selling of high-end cards in the past, and perhaps things are slowing down a little bit. That would be my take on that. But then what's interesting for NBA Top Shot and F1 Delta Time is we kind of have this one where the yellow bar is by far and away the highest. So this tells us that in the last month there's been some pretty heavy selling going on. So the selling in the last month has been much higher than the all-time kind of average. But over the last day and the last week, the average is lower. So this suggests over the previous month, but not including the previous week, that's when the selling happened. So we know in the case of F1 Delta Time, there was some very expensive NFTs that got sold at auction. One of them sold for $230,000. So this average is not actually the average of most of the items. This is the average being skewed by one very big sale. So that kind of makes sense in that case. NBA Top Shot doesn't really have very expensive NFTs in the same way. I think the most expensive ones have been about $10,000. So this kind of suggests to me there's a more heavy kind of speculation going into this, and at the moment this game is really this project, really, this NFT project is really kind of gearing up, and you kind of get that impression from looking at people who are playing this game that there's a lot of money now flowing into NBA Top Shot, and there's a lot of new things being dropped, and obviously over time this all-time average will be rising. So it'll be interesting to look at this data over time to see how this rises. And with a mature project, you'd expect to see the green line would be the highest. The only reason it isn't because these projects are currently going through like a boom cycle. So that's kind of an interesting way of looking at that kind of data. The other graph I had very quickly is the all-time data. So here we're looking at in red, we have the total number of owners, so the total number of wallets that own NFTs in these projects, and in blue, we have the total trading volume. So we can see F1 Delta Time actually is the smallest project, only 629 owners, about $1 million of value. NBA Top Shot has almost $2.5 million of value so far, and many more, almost 4,000 owners. SORARE, slightly less, 2,700, but it's done almost $4 million of value. My Crypto Heroes, I said, this one's pretty much slowed down. This is kind of quite historic figures. CryptoPunks has the fewest owners, but actually has pretty good trading volume because the NFTs are so expensive. AXIE Infinity is the interesting one here. It has a lot of owners, so by far and away. Again, this is a log scale, so almost 25,000 wallets owning these NFTs. So it's very popular, and it has one of the highest trading values, much higher in terms of reach. And then CryptoKitties is still by far and away out in the lead, $30 million of trading volume, but most of that's happened in the past. There's very little happening at the moment, as we've seen. Almost over 91,000 wallets owning them. Again, not a lot of activity there. So it's kind of good to see. You can start to put together some ideas about how these things are going, but you need to look at the all-time values. I think you need to look at the all-time values to get an idea of where these things are, and then look at the kind of current values and the current dynamics, and see what is happening with those, which gives you, put the two things together, and you start to get some interesting trends about which projects are really kicking up speed. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this sort of stuff, please do subscribe to the channel. But thanks for watching, and see you again soon.